Hi everyone, in this video we'll talk about techniques of differentiation. And the first technique is to find the derivative of a constant. And derivative of any constant equal to 0. So for the first example, we have four parts, A, B, C, and D. And if you see, you have constants. You have a constant in each part. So for the first part, f of x equal radical 6. Radical 6 is constant. So if you want to find the first derivative, f prime of x, it is equal to 0 because the function is a constant. For part B, we have y equals pi to the power 3. And pi, as you know, equals 2.17. And it's also a constant. So the derivative of pi to the power 3 is equals to 0. So y prime equal to 0. For the third one, we have g of x equals 5 to the power pi to the power 7 plus 1 divided by 1 over radical 2. And all of these are constants. So g prime of x equal to 0. G prime of x equal to 0 because the function is constant. And in part D we have a constant function 1 over 2 multiplied by negative 9 to the power e plus 7. And e, the Iberian number, and equal to 2.17. So this is a constant function. And the derivative of this function equal to 0 also. So y prime equal to 0. So this is the first technique of differentiation, and the derivative of any constant equal to 0. The second technique, if you have x to the power n, the derivative is n multiplied by x to the power n minus 1. So you have to down the power and minus 1. You have to put the power down and subtract 1 from the power. So for the first part, f of x equal x to the power 4, we have f prime of x equals 4. You have to down the power x to the power 4 minus 1. And this is equals 4x to the power 3. For the second one, you have to modify the function, okay? And you have to write it as you know, 1 over x to the power 3, we can write it as x to the power negative 3. After you modify the power, you can find the derivative of this function, and the derivative is y prime, and y prime equals, put the power down, negative 3, and subtract 1 from the power, and you will get minus 3 minus 1, and this is equals to negative 3x to the power negative 4. And we can write it as negative 3 over x to the power 4. For part C, we have the cube root of x power 100. Firstly, you have to rewrite it in exponential form. So we can write it as x to the power 100 over 3. Then you can use the rule of x to the power n to find the derivative of this function. So g prime of x equals, put down the power, we have 100 over 3, x to the power 100 over 3 minus 1. And 100 over 3 minus 1, we can write 1 as 3 over 3, and you will get 100 over 3 minus 3 over 3, and this is equals to 100 over 3 x to the power 97 over 3. Next technique is when you have a constant multiplied by a function. So you have to put down the constant and find the derivative of the function. So for the first one, we have f of x equals negative 2x to the power 3. You have to put down the power and multiply it by the coefficient negative 2, and you have f prime of x equals negative 2 times 3, which is negative 8, multiplied by x power 3 minus 1, which is 2. And this is the first derivative of part A. And in part B, we have 3x to the power 8. And to find the first derivative, you have to down 8 and multiply it by 3. So y prime equals 3 times 8, which is 24, x to the power 8 minus 1, which is 7. And in part C, we have g of x equals 1 over 2x to the power 3 over 2. And if you want to find the derivative g prime of x, this is equals to 1 over 2. This is a constant. You have to put it down, multiply by the power 3 over 2, x to the power 3 over 2 minus 1. And 1 over 2 times 3 over 2 equals 3 over 4, multiplied by x. 3 over 2 minus 1, which is 2 over 2, which equals 1 over 2. And you can write it in radical form as 3 over 4 multiplied by square root of x. And that's it. The fourth technique of differentiation, if you have two functions, the sum or the difference of two functions, you have to derive each function apart. Okay, so the derivative of f of x plus or minus g of x equals f prime of x plus or minus g prime of x. Here we have x equals t squared minus t. We have function subtract from other function. So you have to find the derivative of each function apart and put negative sign between them. So if you want to find the derivative of the first function, it will be x prime equals the derivative of t squared equals 2t to the power 1 minus the derivative of t equals to 1. And this is the final answer. For part B, you have to modify the function. For the first term, it's okay, you can start the derivation for the first term. For the second term, you have to rewrite radical x as x to the power 1 over 2. So you have to modify the function. F of x equals negative 3x to the power negative 8 plus 2x to the power 1 over 2. We have addition of two functions. So f prime of x equals, for the first function, negative 3x to the power negative 8, you have to multiply the power with the coefficient. So negative 3 times negative 8 equals 24x to the power negative 8 minus 1, which is negative 9. Then plus 2 multiplied by the power 1 over 2 x to the power 1 over 2 minus 1. And this is equals to x to the power negative 9. You can write the exponent, you can write positive exponent by rewrite the first term as 24 over x to the power 9 And here we have 2 multiplied by 1 over 2, which is equals to 1. X 1 over 2 minus 1 equals negative 1 over 2. And as a final answer, you can write it as 24 over x to the power 9 plus 1 over x to the power half. But x to the power half, we can write it as radical x. And this is the final answer for the last example. That's it. Thank you.